The notification sound on my phone cut through the silence of our kitchen like a knife. I was standing at the counter, stirring sugar into my coffee, when Lila's message appeared on the screen. No good morning, no explanation, just a casual announcement that would shatter what was left of our marriage. I'm in Vegas for a week. Don't wait up. I stared at those 8 words, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Arthur Dempsey, that's me, 44 years old, IT consultant, former amateur boxer who thought he'd learned to roll with the punches, but this one landed clean. The coffee mug felt heavy in my hands as I read the message again. Vegas, for a week. With him, obviously, though she didn't have the courtesy to mention Brent Callahan by name. She never did anymore. I had tried to be patient at first, telling myself her tradition was harmless. Every few months, she disappeared for a weekend trip with her ex, smiling like it was normal. We've always done this, she would say, brushing off my questions with that dismissive wave of her manicured hand. It's our tradition. I'm not breaking it for anyone. The anyone was me, her husband of 6 years. I asked her to stop. Calmly at first, then more firmly when the pattern became a habit that was eating away at my self-respect like acid. She didn't compromise. She rolled her eyes, called me insecure, and acted like loyalty was something I should earn while she carried her past around like a passport to wherever the hell she wanted to go. Each time she returned, she brought souvenirs and fake warmth, as if gifts could erase the fact that she kept choosing another man's company over her husband's peace of mind. A snow globe from Aspen, a keychain from Miami, a t-shirt from Lake Tahoe. Little tokens of her adventures with Brent while I stayed home like a faithful dog. But this time was different. This time, she hadn't even bothered with the usual charade of asking permission she had no intention of seeking. No fake consultation, no pretense of caring about my feelings. Just a text message delivered like a weather report. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Lila. Don't be dramatic about this, Art. I'll call you later. Don't be dramatic. Right, because wanting your wife to act like she's actually married to you is dramatic. I set the coffee down and picked up my phone. My fingers moved across the screen with steady precision, typing out a response that felt like stepping off a cliff. Have fun with him. The divorce papers are ready. I hit send before I could second-guess myself, then immediately went to my contacts and blocked her number. Then I blocked her on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, every digital doorway she might use to crawl back into my life with her excuses and manipulations. The silence that followed was profound. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I could breathe in my own house. My phone rang 20 minutes later. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to Lila's panicked voice. Art, what the hell? You can't just block me. We need to talk about this. I'm coming home right now. I deleted the message and blocked that number too. The house felt different already. Bigger somehow, like I'd been holding my breath for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to fill my lungs completely. I walked through the rooms, our bedroom with its unmade bed, the living room with Lila's magazines scattered across the coffee table, the kitchen where we'd had our last real conversation 3 weeks ago. That conversation had been the final straw, though I hadn't realized it at the time. Lila had announced another weekend trip with Brent, this time to some spa resort in Arizona. When I objected, she'd looked at me like I was a child having a tantrum. You knew who I was when you married me, she'd said, applying lipstick in the hallway mirror. I've always been close with my exes. It's called being mature, Art. You should try it. Mature. That was her favorite word for behavior that would get most people divorced. I knew you were close with him, I'd replied, trying to keep my voice level. I didn't know that meant regular romantic getaways. She'd laughed, actually laughed, and shaken her head like I was being ridiculous. They're not romantic. We're friends. Good friends who happen to have history. Friends don't book couples suites at luxury resorts, Lila. Oh my God, you're so paranoid. It's cheaper to split a suite than get separate rooms. Basic economics. Basic economics. Right. Because Lila Dempsey, HR director at a Fortune 500 company, needed to worry about hotel costs. Now, standing in the kitchen with my cold coffee and my blocked phone, I realized I was done pretending to believe her lies. Done pretending that her friendship with Brent was anything other than an ongoing affair that she conducted with my implicit permission. Well, permission revoked. I called my lawyer, David Chen, and left a message asking him to prepare divorce papers. Real ones this time, not just the threat I'd made in my text. Then I called my boss and told him I'd be working from home for the rest of the week. The afternoon stretched ahead of me like an empty highway. I should have felt lost, devastated, broken. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Relief. My phone buzzed with another unknown number. This time I answered. Art, thank God. Lila's voice was high and strained. What are you doing? You can't just... I hung up and blocked that number too. 20 minutes later, another call. I answered without looking at the caller ID. Arthur Dempsey, this is ridiculous. Now she sounded angry. You're acting like a child. I'm trying to save our marriage here. Funny, I said, my voice calm. I thought you were in Vegas trying to fuck your ex-boyfriend. The silence on the other end was so complete I wondered if she'd hung up. It's not like that, she finally whispered. It's exactly like that, Lila, and I'm done pretending otherwise. Art, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been cheating on me for years and calling it friendship? That you book romantic getaways with another man and expect me to smile and wave goodbye? What exactly do you want to explain? I never cheated. The words came out sharp and defensive. You're just what? Just friends who share hotel rooms? Just friends who take couples trips to romantic destinations? Just friends who've been fucking behind my back for our entire marriage? That's not true. But her voice cracked when she said it, and we both knew I'd hit the target. Come home, Art. Let's talk about this like adults. I am home. You're the one in Vegas with your boyfriend, and there's nothing to talk about. My lawyer will be in touch. I hung up and immediately blocked that number too. The house was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet now. Not the hollow silence of abandonment, but the peaceful quiet of a decision finally made. I walked down to my basement workshop, a cluttered space filled with computer equipment, old boxing gear, and the accumulated debris of hobbies I'd started and abandoned over the years. In the corner sat my heavy bag, dusty from months of neglect. I pulled on my old gloves and started hitting the bag, slowly at first, then with increasing intensity. Each punch felt like shedding another layer of the man I'd been, the patient husband, the understanding spouse, the fool who'd let his wife walk all over him for years. By the time I finished, my knuckles were sore and my shirt was soaked with sweat, but my head was clearer than it had been in months. I was done being Arthur Dempsey, the cuckolded husband. Time to remember who I'd been before I met Lila. Art Dempsey, the guy who didn't take shit from anyone. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over, Art. I'm coming home tomorrow. We're going to fix this. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, The locks will be changed by then. Don't bother. Then I blocked that number too and went upstairs to call a locksmith. The locksmith left at 8:30 the next morning, and I was admiring the new deadbolt when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I hadn't expected. Miranda Walsh, Lila's younger sister. Miranda was everything Lila wasn't, understated where Lila was flashy, thoughtful where Lila was impulsive, and honest where Lila was, well, Lila. She stood on my porch holding a USB drive and wearing an expression I couldn't quite read. I opened the door, keeping the chain latch engaged. Miranda, let me guess. Lila sent you to talk sense into me? She shook her head, auburn hair catching the morning light. Actually, I came to talk sense into you, but probably not the way you think. Can I come in? Something in her tone made me unhook the chain. Miranda stepped inside, glanced around the living room, and sat down on the couch without being invited. She'd always been comfortable in our house, more comfortable than Lila ever seemed to be. So, she said, placing the USB drive on the coffee table between us, you finally grew a spine. I blinked. Excuse me? About time, honestly. I was starting to think you'd let her walk all over you forever. Miranda leaned back, studying my face. How long have you known about Brent? The question hit me like a slap. How long have you known? Years. Since before you two got married, actually. She picked up the USB drive, turning it over in her fingers. I tried to tell you once, remember? At your engagement party. You thought I was just being a jealous sister. I did remember. Miranda had pulled me aside during the party, started to say something about Lila and her friendship with Brent, but I'd cut her off. I was in love, drunk on the idea of marriage, convinced that Miranda was just stirring up drama. Why didn't you try harder? I asked. Would you have listened? You were so head over heels for my sister that you couldn't see what was right in front of you. Miranda's voice was gentle but firm. Besides, it wasn't my place to blow up your life. That was Lila's job, apparently. I sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted. So what's on the drive? Evidence. Photos, text messages, hotel receipts, credit card statements. Everything you'd need to prove adultery in court. She held up a hand before I could speak. And before you ask, yes, I've been collecting it for years. Call it insurance. Insurance against what? Against the day my sister finally pushed you too far and you decided to fight back. I figured you'd need ammunition when that happened. Miranda's smile was sharp. Congratulations. That day has arrived. I stared at the USB drive like it was a loaded gun. Why would you do this to your own sister? Because she's been doing it to you for years, and somebody needed to be on your side. Miranda's expression softened slightly. Look, Art, I love Lila. She's my sister. But she's also selfish, manipulative, and completely incapable of putting anyone's needs before her own. You deserved better than what she gave you. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I glanced at the screen and saw a text. Miranda better not be there. This is between us, Art. Miranda saw me reading and laughed. She's panicking. Good. She called me 6 times last night, begging me to convince you to take her back. I told her I'd think about it. And? I thought about it. The answer is no. She stood up, smoothing down her skirt. That USB has everything you need to take her to the cleaners in the divorce. Financial records showing she's been using your joint accounts to pay for her little adventures. Photos of her and Brent in compromising positions. Text messages that would make a sailor blush. I picked up the drive, surprised by how light it felt for something that could destroy a person's life. Where did you get all this? Lila's not as careful as she thinks she is. She uses the same password for everything, your wedding date, ironically, and she has a habit of leaving her laptop open when she comes to visit. Miranda headed for the door, then paused. There's something else you should know. She's not just cheating with Brent. The words hit me like ice water. What do you mean? Check the photos from her girls' weekend in Miami last month. The ones where she said she was with her college roommates? Miranda's smile was predatory. Spoiler alert, that's not her college roommate in the hot tub with her. She left me standing in my living room, holding a USB drive that contained the wreckage of my marriage. I plugged it into my laptop with shaking hands. The first folder was labeled Brent 2019-2024. 5 years of evidence. Photos of them together at restaurants, hotels, beaches, text messages that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship, credit card statements showing charges for romantic dinners, couples massages, jewelry purchases. The second folder was labeled Others. My stomach dropped. Miami, Jake Morrison, Lila's former boss. Photos of them on a yacht, her bikini top untied, his hands on her waist. Denver, someone named Rick Castellanos. Hotel room photos that made me slam the laptop shut. Phoenix, 2 different men. A weekend that Lila had described as a spa retreat with the girls. I sat back, staring at my reflection in the black laptop screen. How had I been so blind? How had I convinced myself that her constant trips, her secretive phone calls, her sudden interest in personal growth and finding herself were innocent? The answer was simple. I'd wanted to believe her. I'd loved her enough to accept her lies because the truth was too painful to face. My phone rang. This time I recognized the number. Pete Kowalski, my best friend since high school and the owner of Murphy's Tavern, the dive bar where I'd spent most of my bachelor years. Hey, Art, you busy? I need to talk to you about something. Actually, yeah. I could use some company. You want to come over? Already in your driveway, buddy. Saw Miranda leaving. Figured you might need a beer and a friendly ear. Pete walked in carrying a 6-pack of Sam Adams and wearing his usual uniform of jeans, work boots, and a flannel shirt that had seen better decades. He was a big man, 6'4", and built like a linebacker, with graying hair and hands scarred from 20 years of construction work before he bought the bar. So, he said, handing me a beer. Miranda finally showed you the evidence? I nearly choked on my first sip. You knew about this too? Art. Everybody knew. Well, everybody except you. Pete settled into the recliner that had been his unofficial seat whenever he visited. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I already filed for divorce. Good start. What else? I gestured at the laptop. Miranda gave me enough evidence to take Lila for everything she's worth. Also good, but I'm talking about the real question. How are you going to handle this emotionally? Because right now, you look like a man who's been hit by a truck. Pete had always been direct. It was one of the things I valued about our friendship. No bullshit, no dancing around difficult topics. Just straight talk between 2 guys who'd known each other long enough to skip the pleasantries. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to destroy her. Part of me wants to just disappear and start over somewhere else. And part of me still can't believe this is really happening. The destroying her part? That's normal. The disappearing part? Also normal. The not believing it part, that's the problem. Pete leaned forward, his expression serious. You need to get angry, Art. Really angry. Because right now, you're still thinking like a victim. I am a victim. No, you were a victim. Now you're a man with evidence, a good lawyer, and friends who have your back. Big difference. He was right, and I knew it. But knowing it and feeling it were two different things. There's something else, Pete said. Something you need to know about your wife's little support network. What do you mean? I mean the people who've been helping her hide this from you, starting with her friend Aubrey from work. I knew Aubrey, Lila's closest friend at the office, a gossipy woman who'd never liked me. She'd been to our house dozens of times, smiled at me, made small talk, all while knowing that my wife was cheating. Aubrey's been covering for her, Pete continued, providing alibis, helping her coordinate schedules, even booking hotel rooms under her own name so the charges wouldn't show up on your joint accounts. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected. It was one thing for Lila to cheat. That was between us. But to have other people actively participating in the deception, people who'd sat at my dinner table and pretended to be friends. How do you know all this? Pete grinned, and for a moment he looked like the troublemaker I'd known in high school. Because Aubrey's got a big mouth and a drinking problem. She comes into Murphy's every Friday after work and tells anyone who'll listen about her life, including how she's been helping your wife maintain her privacy during her complicated personal situation. She actually said that? Word for word. Last Friday, she was bragging about how clever they'd been, booking separate flights to Vegas so nobody would see them together at the airport. Pete's expression darkened. She thought it was funny, Art. Your pain was entertainment to her. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. The sadness and confusion I'd been feeling since yesterday started transforming into something else, something sharper and more focused. I want to talk to her. I figured you might. She'll be at Murphy's tomorrow night, same as always. But Art... Pete held up a warning hand. Don't go in there looking for a fight. Go in there looking for information. There's a difference. He was right again. But as I sat there, thinking about Aubrey laughing with her friends about how they'd helped my wife humiliate me, I wasn't sure I cared about the difference anymore. Murphy's Tavern on a Friday night was exactly what you'd expect from a dive bar in suburban Boston. Dim lighting, sticky floors, and the kind of clientele that valued cheap beer over atmosphere. I'd spent countless nights there during my bachelor days, but walking in now felt different. I wasn't here to drink away my sorrows or shoot pool with Pete. I was here for answers. Aubrey Mitchell sat at the far end of the bar, already 3 drinks deep, if the empty glasses in front of her were any indication. She was a thin woman in her late 30s with bleached blonde hair and the kind of sharp features that looked perpetually disapproving. Tonight she wore a tight black dress that was trying too hard and laughing too loudly at something her companion was saying. The companion was another surprise. Sean Brennan, a muscle-bound idiot who worked as a trainer at Brent's gym. I recognized him from the photos on the USB drive, lurking in the background of several shots of Lila and Brent together. I ordered a beer from Pete, who gave me a subtle nod toward the back booth. The plan was simple. Let Aubrey get a little drunker, then approach her when she was loose-tongued and confident. Pete would make sure things didn't get out of hand. 20 minutes later, Sean excused himself to use the bathroom, leaving Aubrey alone at the bar. I made my move. Aubrey, fancy seeing you here. She turned, and I watched her face cycle through several expressions. Surprise, guilt, defiance, and finally settling on fake sympathy. Oh my God, Art! How are you holding up? Lila told me about your situation. She reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Are you? Because from what I hear, you've been pretty involved in helping create this situation. Her hand froze halfway to her drink. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. Hotel reservations under your name, alibis for weekend trips, covering for my wife while she fucked her ex-boyfriend. I kept my voice low and conversational, but each word landed like a punch. Ring any bells? Aubrey's face flushed red. That's not... I never... Never what? Never helped her lie to me? Never booked rooms for her romantic getaways? Never sat at my dinner table and smiled while you helped my wife cheat? You don't understand, she hissed, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. It's complicated. Lila was trying to figure things out. She was confused about her feelings. Confused? I nodded slowly. Right. So confused that she needed to fuck multiple men to sort through her emotions. Makes perfect sense. Aubrey's mouth fell open. Multiple men? What are you talking about? Interesting. Either she was a better actress than I'd given her credit for, or Lila had been keeping secrets from her accomplice too. You didn't know about Jake Morrison, or Rick Castellanos, or the 2 guys in Phoenix. I watched her face carefully. Wow. Lila really didn't trust you as much as you thought, did she? That's impossible, Aubrey whispered. She and Brent have been together since college. She loves him. She loves him so much that she married me and fucked half the eastern seaboard behind both our backs. I leaned closer. Face it, Aubrey. You weren't her friend. You were her useful idiot. Sean returned from the bathroom, immediately sensing the tension. He was a big guy, probably 6'2" and built like a brick shithouse, with the kind of artificial tan and perfectly groomed appearance that screamed steroid abuse. Everything okay here? He asked, moving to stand behind Aubrey's stool. Everything's fine, I said. I was just catching up with my wife's friend about her recent activities. Your wife? Sean's face went blank for a moment, then understanding dawned. Oh, shit. You're Art. Guilty. And you're the moron who's been helping Brent document his affair with my wife. Nice work on the photography, by the way. Really captured their chemistry. Sean's face darkened. Hey, man, I don't know what you think you know, but I know you took pictures of them in bed together. I know you helped them sneak around behind my back. And I know you're about as smart as a bag of hammers, which explains why you're standing here instead of running for the exit. You better watch your mouth, Sean growled, taking a step closer. Or what? You'll hit me? In front of all these witnesses? In Pete's bar? I gestured around the room, where several regulars were now watching our conversation with interest. Go ahead, genius. Assault charges will look great on your record. Pete appeared beside us as if by magic, wiping down a glass with deliberate slowness. Problem here, gentlemen? No problem, I said. Just having a friendly conversation with some of my wife's associates. Aubrey had been silent during the exchange with Sean, but now she found her voice. Art, please. You have to understand. Lila never meant to hurt you. She was just trying to hold on to something from her past. By cheating on me with multiple men while you helped cover it up, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. The words burst out of her, loud enough to draw attention from nearby tables. She was supposed to choose between you and Brent, but she couldn't make up her mind, and then there were other guys, and it all got so complicated. Shut up, Sean hissed, but it was too late. She kept saying she needed more time, that she was figuring out what she really wanted, Aubrey continued, the alcohol and stress making her reckless. But then she'd meet someone new, or Brent would get jealous, or you'd start asking questions, and she'd panic and make me help her cover it up. How long? I asked quietly. What? How long has this been going on? The whole time we've been married? Aubrey's silence was answer enough. I felt something break inside me, not my heart, that had been broken yesterday. This was something deeper, colder. The last vestige of the man who'd believed in love and marriage and the possibility that people could be trusted. You know what the funny part is? I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I actually loved her. I would have done anything for her. I was planning to start a family with her. Art, Aubrey started, but I cut her off. And you, I turned to Sean. You helped destroy my marriage for what? A few laughs? Some good stories to tell at the gym? Look, man, I didn't know you. It wasn't personal. It is now. The words came out colder than I'd intended, and I saw something flicker in Sean's eyes. Not fear exactly, but uncertainty. Good. Let him wonder what I meant. I finished my beer and set the empty bottle on the bar. Aubrey, you can tell Lila that her little support network is crumbling, starting with you. What do you mean? I mean, I'm going to make sure everyone at your office knows exactly what kind of person you are. How you helped a married woman cheat on her husband, how you lied and schemed and covered up adultery for years. I smiled, and it felt like breaking glass. I wonder how HR will feel about that. Probably not great for your career prospects. Aubrey went pale. You can't do that. You don't have any proof. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen, a recording app that had been running for the last 10 minutes. Want to bet? That's illegal. You can't record someone without their consent. Actually, Massachusetts is a two-party consent state for private conversations, but this is a public place and you were speaking loud enough for half the bar to hear. No expectation of privacy. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. Thanks for the confession, though. My lawyer will love this. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Sean? You might want to tell Brent that his little Vegas vacation is about to get very expensive. I hope he enjoyed it, because it's going to cost him everything he has. I left them sitting at the bar, Aubrey crying into her drink and Sean looking like he'd swallowed a live grenade. Pete caught my eye as I headed for the door and gave me a subtle thumbs up. Outside, the night air felt clean and cold against my skin. I sat in my car for a few minutes, letting the adrenaline fade and the reality of what I'd just done sink in. I'd crossed a line tonight. The patient, understanding husband was gone, replaced by someone harder and more dangerous, someone who fought back. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You have no idea what you're messing with, asshole. Back off or you'll regret it." I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back, "Try me." Then I blocked that number too and drove home to plan my next move. Lila was waiting for me when I got home. She sat on my front porch steps like she had every right to be there, her designer luggage arranged around her like a fortress. Even after a red-eye flight from Vegas and what must have been a humiliating conversation with Aubrey, she looked perfectly put together, hairstyled, makeup flawless, wearing the kind of outfit that costs more than most people's rent. "Hello, Arthur." Her voice was steady, controlled, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "Lila, enjoying the new locks?" She held up a key, my old house key, now useless. "Very mature. Really shows how committed you are to working through our problems." "Our problems?" I laughed, and the sound was harsh in the quiet suburban night. "Is that what we're calling your 5-year affair now?" "It wasn't an affair. Brent and you and Jake and Rick and God knows who else." I walked past her to my front door, noting how she flinched when I mentioned the other names. "Miranda was very thorough with her documentation." "My sister gave you those files?" Lila's composure cracked slightly. "That vindictive bitch. She's always been jealous of what we have." "Had. Past tense. And she wasn't jealous. She was looking out for me while my wife was busy fucking half of New England." I unlocked the door but didn't invite her in. She followed anyway, dragging her suitcase behind her like she was moving back in. "We need to talk," she said, settling herself on the couch as if nothing had changed. "No, we don't. We need you to leave." "This is my house too." "Actually, it's not. Check the deed. It's in my name only. Wedding gift from my parents, remember? They never did trust you." I remained standing, arms crossed. "You have no legal right to be here." "Legal right?" Lila's mask slipped further, revealing the anger underneath. "I'm your wife." "You're my soon-to-be ex-wife. There's a difference." She stood up, moving closer, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, the expensive stuff she wore on special occasions. Or apparently, when she was trying to seduce her husband into forgetting that she'd been cheating on him for years. "Art, please. I know you're hurt, but we can fix this. What Brent and I have, it's not real. It's just nostalgia. Comfort from the past. You're my present. You're my future." "What about Jake? Was he nostalgia too? Or Rick? Or the 2 guys in Phoenix whose names I don't even know?" Each name hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, her face cycling through emotions: shock, fear, calculation, and finally, desperate anger. "You don't understand," she said, her voice rising. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under, the expectations, the way everyone always wants something from me. Sometimes I just need to feel free, to remember who I used to be before I became Mrs. Arthur Dempsey, suburban housewife." "So you decided to fuck your way through your identity crisis while I paid the bills and played the fool." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Lila? Explain it to me. Help me understand how screwing multiple men behind my back was actually a good thing for our marriage." She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her mind working, trying to find the right combination of words that would make this all go away. "I never stopped loving you," she said finally. "Everything else was just physical, meaningless. You're the one I chose to marry. You're the one I come home to." "You come home to me between affairs. There's a difference." "Art, please." "No." The word came out harder than I'd intended. "No more excuses. No more lies. No more manipulation. I'm done." Lila's face crumpled, and for a moment she looked genuinely devastated. If I hadn't seen the photos, read the text messages, heard Aubrey's confession, I might have believed it was real. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. "What can I do to fix this?" "Nothing. There's nothing you can do, because there's nothing left to fix. You killed our marriage, Lila. You killed it slowly, methodically, over the course of years. And the worst part is, you made me complicit in it by lying to my face and making me doubt my own instincts." She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. "I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did hurt me. Every time you lied. Every time you chose someone else over me. Every time you came home from one of your trips and pretended to be the loving wife while you were still thinking about another man's hands on your body. Stop it. Every time you let me make love to you knowing you'd been with someone else days or hours before. Every time you let me plan our future while you were busy destroying it. Stop. Every time you made me feel like I wasn't enough, like I was crazy for being suspicious, like I was the problem in our marriage." She slapped me, hard. The sound echoed through the living room like a gunshot. We stood there in the aftermath, both breathing hard, both shocked by the violence of it. My cheek stung, but the pain was nothing compared to the cold fury that was building in my chest. "Feel better?" I asked quietly. She was staring at her hand like she couldn't believe what she'd done. "Art, I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. You meant it. Just like you meant every lie you told me, every time you chose someone else over our marriage, every moment you decided your pleasure was more important than my pain." I walked to the closet and pulled out the suitcase I'd packed for her. Everything she'd left behind when she went to Vegas, plus a few other items I thought she might want. "Your things," I said, setting the suitcase by the door. "I'll have the rest shipped to Miranda's. You can't throw me out. I have nowhere to go. You have lots of places to go. Brent's place, Jake's place, Rick's place. Hell, call those guys from Phoenix. Maybe they'll let you crash on their couch." "That's not fair." "Fair?" I laughed, and it was a bitter sound. "You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you spent our anniversary weekend with Brent in Miami? Was it fair when you used our joint credit card to buy lingerie for your dates with other men? Was it fair when you made me feel like a paranoid husband for asking questions about your constant trips?" She had no answer for that. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to take your suitcase and leave. Tomorrow my lawyer will serve you with divorce papers. You can contest it if you want, but I have enough evidence to prove adultery, so I wouldn't recommend it. The house is mine, the cars are mine, and thanks to the prenup your father insisted on, you get exactly what you brought into this marriage, which, if I remember correctly, was about $30,000 in credit card debt. The prenup won't hold up in court, not after 6 years of marriage. Maybe not, but the adultery evidence will. Massachusetts still recognizes fault-based divorce, and cheating spouses don't tend to do well in property settlements." I opened the front door. "Your choice." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her weighing her options. Fight and risk losing everything in a messy court battle, or take what she could get and walk away. "This isn't over," she said finally, grabbing her suitcase. "Yes, it is. You just haven't accepted it yet." She paused in the doorway, turning back with one last desperate attempt. "What about the good times? What about when we first met? When we were happy? Doesn't that mean anything to you?" "It means I fell in love with someone who didn't exist. The woman I married was a lie, Lila. A beautiful, convincing lie, but a lie nonetheless." She left without another word, dragging her suitcase down the front walk toward the taxi that was waiting at the curb. I watched until the taillights disappeared around the corner, then closed the door and turned the deadbolt. The house was quiet again, but this time the silence felt final. Complete. I poured myself a whiskey and sat down in my living room, surrounded by the remnants of a life I'd thought was real. Wedding photos on the mantel, vacation souvenirs on the bookshelf, anniversary gifts that now felt like mockeries. Tomorrow I'd start the process of dismantling it all, piece by piece, but tonight I just sat in the quiet and let myself feel the full weight of what I'd lost. Not just a wife, but the illusion of a marriage, the dream of a future, the belief that the person I'd trusted most in the world had actually existed. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. "How'd it go?" I typed back. "It's over." "Good. Want some company?" I considered it, then decided I needed to be alone with this. "Tomorrow. Tonight I just need to think." "Fair enough. But Art, you did the right thing." "Maybe. Time would tell. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was living in reality instead of a fantasy. It was painful, but it was real. And real was something I could work with." 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office reviewing the final divorce settlement when David Chen looked up from his paperwork with a grim expression. "We have a problem," he said. "What kind of problem?" "The kind where your wife has been liquidating assets behind your back." David slid a bank statement across his desk. "She cleaned out your joint savings account yesterday, all $43,000. I stared at the numbers, feeling a familiar cold anger settle in my chest. How is that possible? I thought we froze the joint accounts. "We froze the ones we knew about. Apparently she opened this one 6 months ago using your power of attorney. It's completely legal. So she gets to steal my money and there's nothing I can do about it?" David adjusted his glasses, a gesture I'd learned meant he was about to deliver more bad news. "There's more. She's also claiming you physically abused her during your final confrontation. Says she has photos of bruises." "That's impossible. I never laid a hand on her." "She slapped you, right? You told me that. Is it possible she hurt herself in the process and is now claiming you caused the injury?" The memory of that night came flooding back. Lila's hand connecting with my cheek, the shock on her face afterward, The way she'd stared at her own hand like she couldn't believe what she'd done. "She's trying to flip the narrative," I said. "Make herself the victim. It's a common tactic in contentious divorces. If she can prove domestic violence, it could invalidate the prenup and entitle her to a much larger settlement." I leaned back in my chair, processing this latest betrayal. Even now, even after everything, Lila was still lying, still manipulating, still trying to destroy me to save herself. What are my options? Limited. We can fight the abuse allegations, but it'll be expensive and messy. The missing money is harder. Technically, she had legal access to that account. I left David's office feeling like I'd been sucker punched. $43,000, my emergency fund, the money I'd been saving for our future, gone. And now she was trying to paint me as an abuser to steal even more. But as I drove home, the anger began to crystallize into something else, something focused and purposeful. Lila wanted to play dirty? Fine. I'd show her what dirty really looked like. I called Miranda first. "She took the money," I said without preamble. I figured she would. Lila's always been good at taking what isn't hers. Miranda's voice was tight with anger. "What are you going to do about it?" "I need a favor. Remember that USB drive you gave me? I need you to make copies. Lots of copies." "How many copies?" "Enough for everyone at her office. Everyone at Brent's gym. Everyone in her social circle. Everyone who needs to know exactly what kind of person Lila really is." There was a pause. "Art, are you sure about this? Once you go nuclear, there's no taking it back." "She stole my money and accused me of domestic violence. I'd say we're already at nuclear." "Fair point. I'll have the copies ready by tomorrow." Next, I called Pete. "I need to use your bar for something," I said. "Something that might get messy." "How messy?" "The kind of messy that ends careers and ruins reputations." Pete was quiet for a moment. "When do you need it?" "Friday night, during happy hour. When it's packed with people who know Lila and her friends." "You got it. What do you need me to do?" "Just make sure the sound system is working, and maybe have some extra security on hand." "Art? Whatever you're planning, be careful. Revenge has a way of eating people alive." "I'm already being eaten alive. This is just me choosing to bite back." The plan came together over the next few days. Miranda provided the evidence. Dozens of USB drives containing every photo, every text message, every piece of documentation that proved Lila's infidelity. I created a simple presentation, nothing fancy, just a chronological timeline of my wife's affairs with dates, locations, and participants clearly labeled. I also did some research on Brent's business. It turned out Miranda had been right about the federal investigation. His supplement company was under scrutiny for false advertising and health code violations. A few phone calls to the right reporters, along with some photos of him using his own questionable products, would probably finish what the feds had started. Friday night, Murphy's Tavern was packed. Word had gotten out that I was hosting some kind of presentation, and curiosity had drawn a bigger crowd than usual. I spotted several faces I recognized, co-workers of Lila's, friends from our old social circle, even a few neighbors who'd heard the gossip. Aubrey was there, sitting at the back with a group of women from Lila's office. She looked nervous, constantly checking her phone and glancing toward the exit. Good. She should be nervous. Sean was there too, along with several other trainers from Brent's gym. They'd probably come expecting some kind of confrontation, maybe hoping to see me make a fool of myself. They were going to get a show, just not the one they were expecting. At 8 o'clock, I stood up and addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I know this is unusual, but I have something I need to share with all of you. Something about my wife, Lila Dempsey, and the kind of person she really is." The room went quiet. Pete dimmed the lights and fired up the projector I'd set up earlier. For the past 6 years, I thought I was married to a faithful, loving woman. I was wrong. The first slide appeared on the wall, a wedding photo of Lila and me, smiling and happy. A few people in the audience smiled nostalgically. What I was actually married to was a serial cheater who used our home as a base of operations for conducting affairs with multiple men. The second slide showed Lila and Brent in a hotel room in Miami, her legs wrapped around his waist, both of them naked and clearly in the middle of sex. The room erupted. Gasps, shocked murmurs, someone dropping a beer bottle. I let the chaos settle before continuing. This was taken during what she told me was a girls' weekend with her college friends. As you can see, her definition of girls' weekend is somewhat different from mine. More slides followed. Lila with Jake Morrison on his yacht. Lila with Rick Castellanos in a Denver hotel. Lila with the 2 men from Phoenix, all 3 of them in a hot tub that definitely wasn't at a spa retreat. By the time I reached the text messages, Explicit conversations where Lila mocked me, called me naive, laughed about how easy it was to deceive me. Half the audience was staring in horrified fascination while the other half was heading for the exits. Aubrey tried to leave during the Phoenix photos, but the crowd was too thick. She was trapped at her table, forced to watch as her friend's secret life was exposed in brutal detail. Now, some of you might be wondering why I'm sharing this publicly instead of handling it privately, I said, advancing to a slide showing bank statements. The answer is simple. Even after being caught, even after being served with divorce papers, Lila decided to steal $43,000 from our joint account and accuse me of domestic violence. This got another reaction from the crowd, angrier this time, more judgmental. Adultery was one thing, but theft and false accusations crossed a different line. So I decided that if she wants to play dirty, we'll play dirty. Everyone in this room now knows exactly what kind of person Lila Dempsey is. Everyone in her office will know by Monday morning because I'm sending copies of this presentation to her entire company directory. Everyone at Brent Callahan's gym will know because they're getting copies too. I clicked to the final slide, a photo of Lila and me on our wedding day, with text overlay reading, "Some people take their vows seriously, others don't." That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time. The aftermath was immediate and brutal. Aubrey was surrounded by her coworkers, all of them demanding to know how much she'd known and why she'd helped cover it up. Several people were already pulling out their phones, no doubt spreading the news to their own social networks. Sean and the trainers huddled, assessing the fallout for Brent's business, likely fatal. Pete intercepted me at the door. That was brutal, Art. She earned it. My phone rang. Lila, hysterical. "You humiliated me, ruined my life." "You ruined yours," I replied. "I just exposed it." She threatened lawsuits. I reminded her truth isn't defamation. She begged. I said goodbye forever. 3 months later, divorce finalized. She dropped false allegations, repaid stolen money to avoid charges. Fired for conduct, friendless, she faded. Brent's empire collapsed under tax evasion. He fled to Florida. I sold the house, moved on, dated wisely, boxed out anger. Now I wake free. No lies, no betrayal. Peace, hard won, feels like victory.